All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. Now, it is that time of the week, folks. My weekly picks in the world of the National Football League. Week number 2 was very good to me as I went 14-2. Didn't get things started off on the right foot here in week number 3. I picked the Jacksonville Jaguars to win a tight one at home on Thursday night versus the Miami Dolphins. However, it was the Dolphins and quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick. They really came out like gangbusters in order to secure the 31-13 victory and also get them back on the right track. Now, with that said, there are a litany of good games on tap for tomorrow as well as a stellar Monday night affair. And with that said, here are the rest of my picks for week number 3 in this NFL season. Now, we're going to start off with the 2-0 Chicago Bears traveling to Atlanta to take on the 0-2 Falcons. And for the Falcons, what can you say? Bad luck just seems to find them in those inopportune times. The Falcons came out and put up a big lead on the road last week versus the Dallas Cowboys. And even still, the Dallas was coming back. All Atlanta had to do was recover the onside kick, which they did not do. And it opened the door for Dallas, and they went through that door and got the victory. On the flip side for the Chicago Bears, better to be lucky than good. It has not been pretty for the Bears in 2 games this season, but each time that they've stepped on the field, they've walked away victorious. I look at the Bears right now. This defense is starting to play like they were a few years ago when this team won the NFC North. And Mitchell Trubisky is playing with some more confidence, and that's going to be big and important if this Bears team is going to be able to take that next step here in 2020. On the flip side for the Falcons, they're down, but they're not out. And when you get punched in the mouth the way that they did last week versus the Cowboys, how do you respond? That's going to be the telling thing about this team. I think Atlanta finds a way to get it done at home tomorrow. Thus, I'm going to take the Falcons by the score of 27-20. Now, up in Orchard Park, you're going to have the 2-0 Los Angeles Rams clashing with the 2-0 Buffalo Bills. You're talking about 2 teams that can get after you defensively. And in this contest here, I think the first team to get to 20 points more than likely is going to win. You look at this Bills defense, they fly around the football, and they are so physical, and they're going to make life tough on Rams quarterback Jared Goff. On the flip side, you look at this Rams defense led by Aaron Donald, and Aaron Donald, we know what he can do, but the bottom line is he makes grown men look like boys the way that he simply bullies opposing offensive linemen. And if he gets the opportunity to live in that Bills backfield, it's going to be a long afternoon for Josh Allen. But I think this game is going to come down to field position, special teams, and turnovers. Who blinks first? And like I said, the first team to 20 in this contest wins. I'm going to take Buffalo at home by the score of 24-20. Now in Cleveland, it's going to be the 1-1 Browns hosting the 1-1 Washington football team. Cleveland comes into this contest favored by a touchdown over Washington, and Cleveland looked like they got their swagger back last week with a home victory over their in-state rivals in the Cincinnati Bengals. What we saw from the Browns in week number 2, they got to stick with that game plan. Balance on offense. Get that ball to Kareem Hunt. Get that ball to Nick Chubb. And then take some pressure off of Baker Mayfield. If Chubb can get it going, it sets up the play action to the likes of Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry. It really allows the Browns offense to be crisp. On the flip side for Washington, they got a harsh dose of reality last week on the road versus Arizona, and I don't think it's going to get any better for them and their young quarterback this week in Dwayne Haskins. Thus, I'm going to take Cleveland at home by the score of 30-17. Now, in Minneapolis, you're going to have the winless Vikings hosting the 2-0 Tennessee Titans. And for Tennessee, you know it's no secret with what they like to do on offense. Give the football to running back Derek Henry and get out of his way. And they have a staunch defense that can pin their ears back and make life tough for opposing quarterbacks. Now, for Vikings veteran quarterback Kirk Cousins, the start of the 2020 season has not been good, and because of that, we're seeing Minnesota with an 0-2 mark. The Vikings are not that good defensively right now. We saw what they did to Green Bay, or what they didn't do to Green Bay in week number 1, and we saw how Indianapolis just simply ran them out of the building last week. However, the Titans are the better team right now, but I think the Vikings are going to show some fight as they look to avoid that 0-3 mark. Thus, I'm going to take Minnesota at home by the score of 23-19. Now, in Foxborough, you're going to have the 1-1 New England Patriots hosting the 2-0 Las Vegas Raiders. Now, New England comes into this contest favored by 6 points, and a lot of it is due to the fact that the Raiders are dealing with some injuries, as right now, rookie wide receiver Henry Ruggs is not going to be available for the Silver and Black tomorrow. We see this offense coming together for the Patriots with veteran quarterback Cam Newton. We know what New England can do defensively, and we know that Bill Belichick loves to toy with opposing quarterbacks and confuse them. That could mean a long afternoon for one Derek Carr, and if the Raiders can't get their running game going and they do become one-dimensional, I would not be surprised to see Carr force turn over the ball at least 2 times. I think New England gets it done at home and they get back on the winning track. This I'm going to take the Patriots by the score of 27-24. Now at MetLife Stadium, you're going to have the 1-1 San Francisco 49ers taking on the winless New York Football Giants. And for both of these clubs, this is their second game of the season at MetLife. We saw the Niners go to MetLife last week, dominate the New York Jets. They decided to stay in the state of West Virginia this week and come back to the Northeast to get prepared for this game. The Giants, of course, they had some hard luck last week in their loss to the Bears. They had an opportunity to win at the end, and they came up short. And more importantly, they lost their all-pro running back, Saquon Barkley, for the year to a torn ACL. But the Niners are dealing with a litany of injuries themselves. Joey Bosa and Solomon Thomas are gone on that defensive line for the season as they suffered season-ending injuries in the victory last week to the Jets. No Richard Sherman in the secondary for San Francisco, and no Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback or George Kittle at tight end. We saw the Giants this week sign veteran running back Devonta Freeman to replace what Barkley can do. Freeman is a better receiver of the football coming out of the backfield, and he's also a better blocker. And it's going to come down to whether or not that he's going to have an opportunity to get accustomed to this Giants playbook in the nick of time. But one thing we can say about this Giants team under first-year head coach Joe Judge, they do not give up, they fight, and they scrap, and they claw. They just have been unable to get over the hump. I think the injuries to San Francisco are going to leave the door open for this Giants club, and thus I think they get their first victory of the season, and I'm going to take New York at home by the score of 23-19. Now, in the city of brotherly love, you're going to have the winless Philadelphia Eagles hosting the winless Cincinnati Bengals. And for Philly, how did they get here? That's what you have to ask yourself. A surprising loss in week number 1 on the road versus Washington. A surprising loss last week at home versus the Los Angeles Rams, where they simply got punched in the mouth by the Rams running game. And now Philly is in desperation mode against a team that they're favored just by 4 points over in the Bengals. For Philly to get on track, it's got to be Carson Wentz. You know, this guy, ever since he had that knee injury a couple of years ago, he simply has not been the same type of player that he was when he looked like he was going to be the MVP of the NFL in 2017. You have, on the flip side, you have a young quarterback for the Bengals in Joe Burrow. And in spite of the fact that the Bengals are 0-2, you can't put a lot of blame on Burrow. Burrow has been there. You see the confidence, you see the pizzazz, and the bright lights of the NFL are not too big for him at this moment. I think Burrow is going to have a solid game, but I think Philly, they know that their backs are against the wall right now, and it's put up or shut up time. And I think they take care of their business at home by the score of 31-20. Now in the Steel City, you're going to have the 2-0 Pittsburgh Steelers hosting the winless Houston Texans. And for the Texans, I've said it before, and I will say it again. It was a big-time mistake in trading wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins to the Arizona Cardinals and getting literally nothing back, because now we're seeing a quarterback in Deshaun Watson that does not have that deep threat in his passing game, and they are suffering for it. I look at this Pittsburgh defense. I think they're going to pin their ears back on those wide receivers and make life tough for Watson, make him scramble around, and even potentially force the ball and potentially get a couple of turnovers. Offensively for Pittsburgh, they're back in form right now with Big Ben Roethlisberger back. We're seeing some life in this team, and I think he and this rest of the Steelers offense is going to have a big day tomorrow. Thus, I'm going to take the Steelers at home by the score of 34-20. Now in Indy, you're going to have the 1-1 Indianapolis Colts hosting the winless New York Jets. And for the Colts, they come into this contest favored by 11.5 points. And I think it's more a sign of what the Jets have not been able to do as opposed to what the Colts can do. But let's talk about what the Colts can do. You have a veteran quarterback in Phillip Rivers. You have a defense that is really responding and starting to come together. And if that defense gets going, they're going to make life tough for Jets young quarterback Sam Darnold. Why? Because the pieces simply aren't around him on offense. I think the longer that the Jets don't have those pieces around Darnold on offense, the less and less confidence he's going to have. Defensively, I expect the Jets to bounce back after a tough week in their loss to San Francisco. I think they will play better, but it will not be enough, as I'm going to take Indy at home by the score of 31-16. Now in Inglewood, you're going to have the 1-1 Los Angeles Chargers hosting the 0-2 Carolina Panthers. And for the Chargers, they had rookie quarterback Justin Herbert under center last week for the first time in his career. He was game, but he still could not overcome the defending Super Bowl champions in the Kansas City Chiefs. I think this week the Chargers are going to open up that playbook a little bit more, let Herbert get more comfortable, and he won't have to play a defense as good as Kansas City's. On the flip side for this Chargers defense, they've got to go out there and pin their ears back and come after Panthers quarterback Teddy Bridgewater. Make life tough for him. Make him rely on that running game and take away what he can do in the pocket. I think the Chargers get back on track at home, but it won't be easy as Carolina will be game. But I'm going to take the Lightning Bolts by the score of 24-22. Now in the Mile High City, you're going to have the 0-2 Denver Broncos hosting the 1-1 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And for the Bucs, they got on the winning track last week with a home win versus the Carolina Panthers. And I know people want to question what Tom Brady can and can't do at this point in his career. Bottom line is this. If you're Tampa Bay, you got a solid running game with the likes of Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. Give them the ball and let that set up things on play action. This Bucs defense is playing better, led by Ndamukong Suh, and I think they're going to go out there and make life very, very tough for Broncos quarterback Jeff Driscoll. Denver is dealing with a litany of injuries right now, and I think Tampa Bay is able to take advantage of that. Thus, I'm going to take the Bucs on the road by the score of 27-20. Now, in the desert, you're going to have the 2-0 Arizona Cardinals hosting the winless Detroit Lions. And for Detroit, they simply find ways to lose games. And for Arizona right now, they are finding ways to win games. You look at what Kyler Murray is doing with his new guy at wide receiver, and I'm talking about DeAndre Hopkins, as this could be one of the top 1-2 punches as far as quarterbacks and wide receivers go in the NFL. And for Detroit, what can you say? They simply find ways to blow leads. They blew a lead in week number 1 at home versus Chicago, and they blew a lead last week on the road versus Green Bay. I don't think the Lions get an opportunity to blow a lead in this one because I think Arizona storms out and keeps it that way and keeps them in chase position for the rest of the contest. Thus, I'm going to take the Birds at home by the score of 37-20. Now, one of the big ones that people are going to talk about tomorrow, and you're going to have the 1-1 Dallas Cowboys traveling to the Pacific Northwest to take on the 2-0 Seattle Seahawks. And for Dallas, they were staring 0-2 in the face. They were on life support until the Falcons bailed them out. And you want to see if the Cowboys are going to have some momentum that will carry over into this contest for them. Now for Dallas, get the running game going with Ezekiel Elliott and take some of that pressure off of quarterback Dak Prescott. But you look at this defense for Dallas, make no mistake about it, they got torched last week by Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. And if you're Russell Wilson and the rest of the Seahawks offense, you definitely have to be licking your chops. I like this Seahawks pass rush, but will they be able to make enough noise to stop Dak Prescott and this Cowboys offense? We'll have to wait and see. Now, in years past, we've seen the crowd be a factor for opponents coming into Seattle, and definitely that is not the case this year. But I think the Seattle is still a tough place for a visiting team to go on the road and get a win, and thus I'm going to take the Seahawks at home by the score of 31-24. Now, the Sunday night affair could be a playoff preview as you have the 2-0 Green Bay Packers traveling to the Bayou to take on the 1-1 New Orleans Saints. And for New Orleans, they suffered a tough loss last week on the road against the Raiders. They did not have wide receiver Michael Thomas, and he is not expected to play once again in this contest for the Saints. But I think the Saints are going to try to establish their running game a little bit more in this contest to try to shorten the game, number one, and keep Aaron Rodgers, the Packers quarterback, off of the field. I think the Saints defense really wants to try to go out there and play better and establish a tone, because what we've seen in years past from Aaron Rodgers, if you let him get comfortable, you are going to be in for a very long night. But I think this is one of those contests that the last team with the football will get the victory. I think in this case it will be New Orleans, and I'm going to take the Saints in a tight one at home by the score of 31-27. And finally on Monday night, it's going to be a battle of two heavyweights in the AFC, as you're going to have the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs traveling to take on the Baltimore Ravens. You're looking at the last two MVPs of the NFL, Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes and Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. Both of these guys can scramble. They are both efficient in the pocket, and they each have strong arms. They also have talent around them to get the football to. I like what the Ravens can do in regards to running the football with the likes of Mark Ingram and Lamar Jackson. And with what we've seen in the short part of this season, the recipe right now the teams are going to be using to try to defeat the Kansas City Chiefs, keep their offense off the field. And how do you do that? You run the football on offense when you have it. I think Baltimore is definitely going to go out there and establish the line of scrimmage, run the football, shorten the game, and then it also keeps their defense fresh for when Kansas City is on the field offensively in order to try to go out there and get this victory. I think this is going to be a high-scoring affair. The over-under is 54.5, and I think these two teams cover, as I'm going to take Baltimore at home by the score of 34-31. So, folks, those are my picks for week number 3 here in the 2020 NFL season. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Now, if you have not already, please feel free to hit that subscribe button and also like this podcast as well. If you're on Twitter, please feel free to check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. Take care, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and enjoy the NFL action tomorrow and Monday night.